Hi, my name is Sarah Osborne, and my favorite thing is leadership.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. Last Sunday was Rosh Chodesh Elul, which is the start of Elul, the month that includes Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So it is perfect timing to have my guest, Sarah Osborne, on today. Sarah is the founding executive director of A Mitzvah to Eat. She is a Jewish educator and writer, and she has a master's in Jewish education. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad we were able to put this together so quickly.
Me too.
We are both in the group, the Year of the Jewish Woman and Allies, that started 5 years ago. They keep updating what the year is, but it's been it's a Facebook group, and it's been a really great place for me to expand my Jewish network.
Same for me. I've really connected with a lot of people and projects and partnerships there.
Yeah. So where do we find you? Where are you
I'm
based?
in the Washington, D.C. area.
All right. And is it still hot summer there, or are you getting glimpses of fall?
Oh gosh, for the last couple of weeks, it's been amazing. It's like in the 70s, maybe low 80s, but it's beautiful.
Amazing. So I think we did a little Jewish geography before, and we have the wonderful Yvonne Marzouk in common, who has done a couple episodes. She of this podcast. She is also a DC person and an author. But what brought us together today is that you have launched a new organization called A Mitzvah to Eat. With Yom Kippur coming up, you wanted to get something special in people's hands. So before we talk about Yom Kippur, let's talk about the organization A Mitzvah to Eat.
So A Mitzvah to Eat is about 4 years old now. We empower Jews needing ritual accommodations to safely connect to sacred Jewish practice and community. So one of our big areas of focus is supporting Jews who are unable to safely fast. Because in Judaism, just like some other faiths, ritual fasting is part of ritual observance.
Yep.
In the Jewish calendar.
Yeah. And the probably most commonly observed fast is on Yom Kippur.
Exactly. This year it's on the evening of October 1st and ends at darkness on October 2nd.
Yeah. I think it's really important. So I am a cancer survivor. And so I have had years where I was having chemo. My chemo started a couple weeks before the holidays. And so I absolutely couldn't fast, and trying to reconcile years of what I have learned I'm supposed to do on Yom Kippur with where my body actually is with, at that time, a cancer treatment. But now I have chronic illnesses, and I have medicines that require a little something, I will eat lightly. So I am now in a situation where, and I found a lot of joy in Yom Kippur. I don't find fasting to be, this awful. I love being with my people. And so it has been something I've wrestled with these last probably 5 years or so, of how to still make meaning when I can't do what I was told I was supposed to do.
Oh, well, that's so important that you would frame it that way, because that's actually really a lot of what the reasons for and the need for this work, is that so many people just like you learn about Yom Kippur as Yom Kippur is observed by Jews observe Yom Kippur by fasting, or, eating and drinking are prohibited on Yom Kippur, and get this messaging that for everyone, the practice, right, or the mitzvah or the practice is to fast. But that's actually not accurate. In Jewish texts and Jewish teachings, right, starting way back, right, there are, in the Torah, in the Mishnah, right, like ancient teachings that of pikuach nefesh, that life takes precedence over ritual, right? We have teachings like these words from the Torah, v'chai bahem, live by them, which has been interpreted to mean that we live by ritual and not die by them. Like in the Mishnah, right, a sick person is fed on Yom Kippur, and right, even if like the doctor, the healthcare professional says like, I'm not sure that this person needs to eat, but the person says, yes, I do. Like you go by that. Or like if the doctor says you need to eat and the person says they don't, the person eats. So there's a strong tradition in Judaism that when fasting is unsafe, it is a mitzvah to eat. And that fasting is safe for many people, and for many people that's their practice. But when fasting is unsafe, it's a mitzvah to eat. But many of us weren't taught that.
Right.
And so I know for myself as well, I also sort of, it was taught to me with the kind of messaging that you're talking about. Like everyone's going to be fasting, or only the most extreme severe situations, like super, super rare, that someone would be unable to safely fast. And then when, like, for me, it became unsafe, I was like, well, wait, is this, like, am I sick enough? Is this having enough of an impact on me? Could I really eat, or nah?
Right. Am I sick enough to deserve the accommodation for my religion? Right.
Yes. And one of the big things that we're trying to change with the mitzvah to eat is that the text, right, the teachings of the text, right, like for some of us we might call it the halakha, the Jewish law, says one thing, but the communal messaging that people are hearing from their friends and on social media and their neighbors is saying something different. So right in the text you have really this language that, if anyone feels that this would be unsafe, that the person eats on Yom Kippur, and that it doesn't need to be an immediate danger. It could be, something that leads to significant health impacts, or it could be something where there's a possibility of danger. That's what the texts are saying. But then in the communities, right, like I'll see it all the time where someone will say, I have X condition and I will be eating on Yom Kippur. And someone on social media will be like, well, if you're not going to directly die today from, fasting, then you have to fast. That is false. That is incorrect. There is no support for that in Judaism.
And I also think I have two thoughts. And so I'll say the one that came to me first, and then I will try and remember the second. But so I'm active in a Reform congregation. And so we do say, like when we're praying, we'll say, please rise in body or in spirit. Like if we make sure that people know if you need the physical accommodation, if you can't stand for the Amidah, it's okay. God will understand if you have to sit.
Right.
And I was at an Orthodox service on Sunday, attended a friend's daughter's bat mitzvah. And again, I came out of my cancer treatment with chronic illnesses and mobility, and I stood for a little bit, and then my knees were like, we're not standing. And so I felt self-conscious to be the person sitting in the back of an Orthodox synagogue, but they also said, please rise if you are able. And I think that accommodating language is so important in our worship spaces.
I agree. And I'm always really happy when I see that kind of language, because it's not very common, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then the other thought I had is that, like if people are struggling with disordered eating, the Yom Kippur fast can really throw a wrench in your healing. That comes to mind on top of other chronic illnesses, that if you are building a new relationship with food, to do a 24-hour fast, a 25-hour fast can really, that's right. We're not supposed to put stumbling blocks in front of the blind. So why would you put a fast in front of someone if it's going to make them stumble in their healing journey?
Right. And I think that's something that, right, I've definitely seen over the last number of years, people talking more about the impact of fasting on people with eating disorders. And that's really important. But what I want to add to that is that there are so many reasons that people could be unable to safely fast. So both to people with eating disorders and to people without, I just want them to know that at a Mitzvah to Eat, we're supporting people who are coming to being unable to safely fast for multiple reasons. We once did like a why were you unable to safely fast kind of survey, and there were 40 different reasons. Sure. I'm sure there's more than what we even received. So I just really want people to know that, yes, it's important to talk about things that we didn't talk about before. And we should be careful not to send the messaging that only people with eating disorders should be supported in eating on Yom Kippur, but rather the messaging should be for everyone for whom it is unsafe to fast. It is a mitzvah to eat. Right.
So what do you do at a Mitzvah to Eat? How do you educate people? What are some of the programming? What are you guys doing?
So we have two main areas of our work. We do peer support we have a peer support space on Facebook, and we also have online peer support gatherings. And then our resources, which really are everything from our website. We do a lot of education through and introducing new messaging through social media. And I've also begun to do some programming, online programming, which teaches about this same kind of about it might be about text study, it might be about supporting people who need ritual accommodations and what that means. I'm planning a program that I'm really excited about in September, which is going to be about the decision-making process of deciding whether your mitzvah is to fast or to eat on Yom Kippur. What is the best practice role for rabbis, for healthcare providers, and for your lived experience?
Yeah. And is your audience, do you see your main audience as clergy and Jewish leadership who need to make changes in how they teach about fasting, or is it individuals to advocate for themselves, or both?
Yeah, so it's like three expanding circles of the audience, right? In the middle are the Jews needing ritual accommodations themselves. A lot of our peer support is for them. Many of our resources have written original prayers for people to say, if they're unable to safely abstain from chametz, from leavened products on Passover. We have a whole 20-page booklet of prayers to say if you're unable to fast on Yom Kippur. So those are the Jews needing ritual accommodations are in the center. And then I'd say our second layer out is people who might be community members of Jews needing ritual accommodations, or family members or friends, sort of the people who are supporting the people on the inside. And then really the third level out is the rabbis, the clergy, the educators. Really, we'd like to get our messaging out to the Jewish world as a whole, because it just can make such a difference to someone's experience to have correct messaging, and messaging that really includes someone. If we say something everyone should be fasting today, then if you're unable to safely fast, you're either assuming oh, I have to fast, or you're assuming, oh, I'm not part of everyone.
Right. Right. And what is the part of why we're talking today is that you do have a special, you've got a mailing, you've got a care package for Yom Kippur. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so we're doing care packages as a perk for a donation to a mitzvah to eat. And I'm going to talk in a moment about what's in these packages and how people who they can get them for, and all of the logistics. But I just wanted to share, I think, give a sort of a broader picture of what it can be
Yeah.
like to be unable to safely fast. And I know, like, I knew it for myself. That's why I founded a mitzvah to eat. I knew what my experience was like, where, I knew that, like, someone even said to me, your mitzvah is to eat. I had a supportive rabbi at one point who did that. And I really found that, like, Yom Kippur came and I was not able to eat. And it was like I had a number of years of really having, like, I think I'd say something, it took me something like over 10 years from when I was last able to safely fast until I had a Yom Kippur where I was safely able to eat, where I wasn't, like, still fasting for a lot of the day because, like, it was wrong to eat. And I knew that I came to that from my own experience, and also that I was hearing a lot of stories of people who talked about trying to fast or feeling shame or feeling alone. But it was really important to me that to have a better sense of how widespread those kinds of experiences are. And so we did some surveys recently of Jews unable to safely fast, and we found 85% feel shame, 86% feel alone on these ritual fast days,
Yeah.
70% are still trying to fast. It's just right. We really see that that without this support, without this messaging that you're doing the right thing, when fasting is unsafe, it is a mitzvah to eat, that it is so natural for people to do what I did, right? Like,
Right.
okay, I'm going into Yom Kippur, I am going to eat, and then it's like, oh no, it's Yom Kippur, I'm not going to eat. Like, what are you
Right.
talking about? Sort of that feeling. And I think that many people also have experienced that for themselves, right? The 70% there, but not just the people who have experienced it for themselves, but also their family members and their friends. I think many of us know of someone where it's like, my right, like my elderly neighbor or whatever,
Yeah.
clearly can't safely fast, and yet she's insisting, right, or my mother-in-law or my grandfather or
Yeah.
whoever it is, like, sorry, and I'm only, right, or it doesn't have to be elderly people, it can be people of any age, right? I
Yeah.
know this
Right.
person.
I think of my friends who
Yeah.
have insulin pumps and type 2 or type 1 or type 2 diabetes. And it's so important to measure, like, food is an important part of managing your diabetes.
Right.
My friends when they're pregnant or breastfeeding or whatever. I don't need a doctor's note. Like, and I think that's important too, is like that, the ushers aren't actually, as you're talking about, I'm thinking like, man, should we set up like a quiet lounge where if people who want to step out and have their snacks, like, what I was just thinking, I was like, what accommodations do we have for the people who do need to, like, you want to participate in the prayer and you want to step out and have a snack, have a meal without being on display. It was just occurring to me like, I wonder if the people at our synagogue feel welcome to have that meal as needed.
So that's so important. And I actually strongly believe this is something we believe at a mitzvah to eat, that every synagogue needs to have a designated, dignified eating space for
Right.
those who are unable to safely fast on Yom Kippur. And when I say, right, dignified, I mean, this is not like, oh, if you need to eat, you go with, hang out with the toddler group. But,
Right.
this is a space for a sort of, right, like anyone for, right, bar, bat mitzvah age and up, who is unable to safely fast, that, they can go to be in that space. And not because there's anything, someone once said to me recently, like, oh, but being in a separate space, doesn't that mean you're hiding something? For me, no. Like, for me, it means I don't want to eat in front of someone who's fasting, because for some people that's like makes it harder to fast. And I want to have, I want to have some like privacy around it.
Yeah.
But just to have a separate space.
Yeah.
And I
being
will
able to
also
step out and eat without having to have a conversation about where, why, people want to police everyone.
exactly.
People police each other. So like making a space, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, right, people often who are unable to safely fast will often say, if someone sees me eating, they're asking why I'm eating, and then I don't want to have to give my reason. And of course people, like, you don't have to give a reason, but it's still uncomfortable to be, asked those kinds of questions. Like,
Yeah.
it would be like if a stranger on the street was like, why did you go to the doctor yesterday? It's just,
Right.
please don't ask those questions.
Yeah.
And I will say also something that has really stuck with me over the years is in those synagogues where they don't have a designated, dignified, and I would say an announced and labeled space so
Right.
that everyone who needs it can use it. So many people have told me stories about how when they needed to eat on Yom Kippur, they ate in their synagogue closet because that
Yeah.
was the only space that gave them privacy.
I was imagining people are going to a closet, or they're going to like a bathroom stall. I was
Yeah,
kind of thinking of like where are the places women are sent to breastfeed that aren't appropriate. And I was like, that's probably the same places people are sent to eat that's not appropriate.
exactly. And it's such an important thing to have this designated space, because it really sends the message, right? As I said, in Judaism, when fasting is unsafe, it is a mitzvah to eat. So we shouldn't send the message through our synagogues not having spaces that, no, actually you're doing something wrong by eating. No, we should say, like, you're
Yeah.
doing the right thing. Good for you. Awesome
Yeah.
Jewishness there.
Yep. Sorry, my cat has decided to join us. So
Okay.
he's like, I don't think he's quite on camera, but he's really getting in my face right now.
So, with it, like sort of having these statistics in mind of how many people are feeling right shame or feeling alone or trying to fast, knowing they are unable to safely do so, but just doing it. And to be fair, like, why are they doing it? We've asked that too. They said, I felt growing up Jewish. Answers like, growing up Jewish, it just was so ingrained in me to fast that it felt wrong not to. Or answers like, I felt less Jewish when I ate on Yom Kippur. I felt like I had failed when I needed to eat. It's coming from a place of a lack of support. And so
Yeah.
what we have for a mitzvah to eat, we have all sorts of, we have the website, we have our 20-page prayer guide that anyone can print out off the website for free. And we wanted to offer something additional this year. And so these care packages are something that, like, we'll mail them directly to people's homes. We have an individual care package, which has a reusable bag, and it has like stuff you sort of, your magnet and your sticker and like things that you can put on your personal items. But it also has a prayer card that you can, sit with you and hold when you're eating. And it has a postcard where we're going to write a personal message, either that like the person who gives the package does, or that our volunteer team will write, just saying, like, supporting you and having a mitzvah to eat. You're doing the right thing. We support you. So that's the individual package. And then if people want to like have, 10 of a bunch of items so that they can give out in a healthcare facility or at a synagogue or at a college campus, we also have that community package as well.
Nice. Great. When should people order them by? We'll have links on how to order, how to make their donation and order. So how should people order?
Yeah, so the deadline is September 12th. You can get there through, there's a place on the Mitzvah Eats website, and the donate button now has that connected to there. And that's just to allow us time to assemble and ship so you get it before Yom Kippur. I also wanted to add that something, if you are doing it for yourself or you're doing it for someone you know, that's an option. But we're also, we know that, so the individual package giving level is $40, and we know that's not accessible for everyone. And we don't want people to not receive this really supportive resource just because, we want everyone who wants one to be able to receive one.
Yeah.
And so we have on that donation page that if someone is unable to afford to buy the package for themselves, they can fill out a form. And so we're also seeking donors to donate a package anonymously.
Great.
For those people. And I just think that, as meaningful as it would be to buy one, to send one to like your friend or your family member or something like that, can you imagine how meaningful it must be if someone like receives one from someone that they don't even know, that just says like, I care about you eating on Yom Kippur so much. This really matters to me.
Yeah. Well, and that is, no, I'm going to mess it up. Is it Maimonides' hierarchy of giving?
I think so. Yeah.
The highest, one of the highest forms of giving is anonymous to anonymous. So
Yeah.
you're making that happen for people too. Like they're able to give anonymously and not know the recipient, and that is one of our highest forms of community care.
Definitely.
Is there anything about a mitzvah to eat that I haven't asked you that you would be so sad not to get to talk about?
I think I just want to sort of mention something that I think it sort of came up, but I wanted to emphasize it is during our conversation, is that I want everyone to know that a mitzvah to eat is for every kind of Jew from every kind of background and every kind of identity. And we also have people using our resources in our peer support spaces who are converting to Judaism. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that we really, part of the vision was to create this as a pluralistic space where Jews across denominations across the world are supporting each other. And that's what we've done. And it's really meaningful to me to know that, whether people are, part of, Orthodox, Reform, Renewal, Humanist, or whatever kind of communities they're in, they're looking at the messaging and the resources and the peer support from a mitzvah to eat and saying, this is my kind of Judaism.
Yeah. Wonderful. I love that. I love that it is a pluralistic approach. Yeah, and I can even imagine, I've got some friends who are secular, but the two things they do are fast on Yom Kippur and go to a Passover Seder. So even if they don't go to synagogue, and so I can even think of some friends who I can really think of friends in almost every Jewish community that I have friends that could use this resource. So I think it's just outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we will have all the links in the show notes for the care packages, for the community care package. The website has information on how to join upcoming gatherings. You have an online peer support gathering before Yom Kippur. You have your Facebook group. I'm really excited for people to get to know a mitzvah to eat.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah. So Sarah, the timing of the care package ordering and Yom Kippur is why we're talking today. But also on Finding Favorites, I talk to people about their favorite thing. So what is it we're going to talk about this afternoon?
So it took me a little while to figure out what I would share. And I sort of initially ran through my mind, what are the coolest things I have that I've, sort of purchased somewhere.
Yep.
And that sort of got me to something when I was well, could I really talk about that like for a long time on a podcast? I
Right.
don't know. So I want to share one cool thing I have bought because it got me to what I really want to talk about, and that feels important.
Great.
So a few years ago, I was at like I guess it was just right a festival, and I came across this really cool instrument. And it's called, well, they called it a shroom there, but I like did some Googling and prep before I came on here, and it's mostly called a tongue drum, I think.
A ton- I know what you're talking. I
Okay.
believe I know what you're talking about.
So I think that's like one of, I almost brought it upstairs to like share what it sounds like in
Like
the podcast, but then I was carrying too many things and that did not happen.
a
But it's
metal
like,
dome with like tongues cut into it, and each tongue is a different note
yeah, so on
ish.
mine it's like looks more, it's like mine is green and has like looks like mushroomy and has like the
Yeah.
different notes are white, but when I was like, searching, doing an internet search, that's more like what came up. And
Okay.
it's like these beautiful like do 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 like kind of
Mm-hmm.
notes. And it's something that really meant a lot to me to buy because growing up, I played a stringed instrument, and I loved the exposure to classical music. Like I wouldn't have been known, been introduced to this really amazing music without being in orchestras and quartets and
Yep.
things like that. But playing a stringed instrument is not a good fit for my personality because I'm already like sort of one of those like very, driven people, and like, ugh, I want to like this,
Yeah.
should be at 100% or whatever. And like stringed instruments are very much like, you have your finger like one, like millimeter off and the note sounds bad.
Right.
I
Yes,
need
I
something
played
that's
the
more,
oboe. I am familiar with the precision needed for classical
yeah.
instruments. Yeah.
Like I needed more something that's more like that's gave me a break, I guess, from sort of
Mm-hmm.
the sort of right from the other things that I was doing. And so I really appreciated this right, the tongue drum or the shroom,
Uh-huh.
whatever, where it's just like somebody I guess I just really appreciated the vision and the innovation of like creating this
Mm-hmm.
really amazing instrument that always sounds good no matter what you're doing on it. And yeah, so, and it's just like beautiful and relaxing. It's sort of like tones that like a little bit wind chimey, or like what you might
Yeah.
find in sort of like a spa kind of setting or something like that. So that's, I guess, like that's the cool thing that I found.
Okay. And you found it at like a craft fair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you play it regularly?
That was the thing. I was like, maybe that's not what I should talk about because I really like that I own it, but I don't play it regularly. So, but I am now that I'm thinking about it. But I guess that sort of got me thinking about, what sort of, I guess that got me thinking about self-expression and how I really love
Mm-hmm.
self-expression. And then that got me thinking about innovation. And then that got me thinking about leadership. So
All
there we
right.
go.
So we're going to talk about leadership
We're going to
and
talk about
not
leadership.
tongue drums.
Yeah. Because, that way, like you say, things you can find without an algorithm. And as far as I
Mm-hmm.
know, like you can't buy a leadership in the store, but
Right.
like you can buy a tongue drum.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so I'm trying to think of where to start. Um, do you have a first role when you think about leadership and you time travel to the first leadership role you held, whether official or unofficial? What what is that moment in time that you think of?
I have two that come to mind.
Okay.
One is that when I was 7 years old, this was just a vision that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was that well, when I was seven, I was going like I a lot of a lot of unsafe and not okay things happened when I was a kid. I was like, I'm an abuse survivor, and so there were a lot, and there were, multiple perpetrators, many things that were not okay. And so I was really in a situation where I was very, like, completely powerless. And I had this vision when I was 7 where, like, there's a stage there and a podium, and I'm walking over there, and like, I'm putting on these shoes that are too big for me because at 7 I'm not going to really be able to speak and lead. But I put on these big shoes. And then, at 7 I'm not going to be able to speak from a podium, so I push over a box to the podium and go to stand on it and speak about whatever needs to be spoken about. And sort of that's like when I speak or I write I do something now that for me shows leadership quality and really comes from a place of, like, I'm thinking this is something that this is something that someone needs to do, and then it comes to this is something that I need to do. It comes from, like, being that person that when I was 7 years old, I wanted to grow up into being.
Yeah. Amazing. And so you had this vision that you're going to put on some grown-up shoes, you're going to get to a podium and be able to become a leader, which I love. It's very powerful. Can we talk a little bit about your leadership journey?
Sure.
Does that make sense? Like, when you say you love leadership, do you love leadership books or you love being a leader?
I've read a little bit of leadership books, I guess, but I think I love being a leader. And it's something that, I don't think I really fully realized, like, that's one of the things I love about the work that I'm doing, is that I love leadership. I didn't phrase it that way until now. I just did the stuff, and
right.
But I'm realizing that it's I think, and it's something that again, I didn't have language for it but I think it's something I've grown into where, before founding A Mitzvah to Eat, I noticed how, I noticed how alone I had felt on Yom Kippur, and how much shame I had felt. And I noticed the difference between, the Jewish teachings and the communal messaging. I noticed all of those things. And I spent a lot of time writing and processing, like, the difference between, because I founded a Mitzvah to Eat because I had all those years that I wasn't able to eat on Yom Kippur, even though I was also not able to safely fast. And what changed for me was the year that I said, okay, I have to support myself better so that I can do this safely. So I went and searched for prayers on the internet, and prayers to say while eating. I looked for community. I wanted someone to sit with me so that I could eat, and to know that I wasn't alone. And I asked a friend to write me a card and say that she supported me in eating on Yom Kippur. And all of those things just were transformative. When I looked for community, I found, like, I thought, maybe I'll find one person in my whole city or something, right? That's the way it's talked about. Like, this is very rare.
It's very rare. We allow it in very edge cases.
Exactly. But then when I talked about it, I found, 5 people I was already friends with who were unable to safely fast. So it was really like, well, wait a second. Why is it like this then? Right? It's not, and right, what I knew that had happened before that, right, people would say, like, people had written articles saying, I was unable to safely fast and here's how I found meaning. That was important, right? It's not that no one had tried to, begin to address the issue, but not in sort of a really overreaching way that, for me, like, did what I needed, which was to feel community and feel like what I was doing was correct and holy. And so I really was looking around and I was like, where's this thing? I'm looking for a thing. Like, I'm looking for a community and for prayers and, like, some sort of organized initiative where I can connect to other people like this. and like, who's gonna do it?
Uh-huh.
And then it was
Has
like,
it been done? Is it just have bad SEO? Is it just that I'm not finding the person who's doing it already?
right. And it was really in that, like, I was not planning on starting a nonprofit. It's just in that moment I was like, okay, I can't believe no one's done this. It's really
Yeah,
needed. There's a huge problem here, and I know what the solution is.
right.
And okay, I'm gonna do it.
I think one of the things it brings up is that I think if, for people who aren't Jewish, uh, Judaism can seem weird. Like we have all of these rituals and all of these rules, and that seem to outsiders to be very stuck in the past. And what you learn if you are involved in Jewish community and specifically a leader in Jewish community is you start learning all the ways that people are being creative in order to expand access to ritual, include more people in our Jewish life. You know, it makes me think of the mikveh in Boston, Mayim Chaim. I had a hysterectomy when I was 40. And one of the things I really grieved leading up to my hysterectomy was I was single, and I realized, like, I go to a Reform synagogue. I don't keep nida. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is a mitzvah is being taken, an opportunity to observe a mitzvah is being taken away from me. But I have to get this hysterectomy. And so I reached out to that mikvah, and they helped me design a last mikvah dip to celebrate before my hysterectomy, that I had my last period, and like that this chapter's one chapter was closing and a new one. So, and that took people and women in leadership saying, this important ritual, this important part of Jewish life shouldn't just be locked away and mysterious. How can more people have access? And I think, especially if you're in, DC is such a vibrant Jewish community, lots of synagogues and to choose from, and different ways to observe, that you're also like in a place where you can see the gap and build a new structure, formally or informally, to help the community in a different way. I don't know that was a coherent thought, but
No, I
that's
mean,
what
I
I'm
think
thinking about.
For me, two of the things that I really that really resonated for me and what you said was the whole idea of innovation. That I think Jewish practice has been, that's one of like the main, that's one of the hallmarks of Judaism for me, right? When we look, at Judaism from, sort of from the very beginning to now, and some of the innovations were, things that no one could control, but many of, and like, Judaism became all the richer for all the different
Yeah,
places that Jews have lived, and the different ways that people said, like, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna introduce this to my Jewish practice, and like, the things that we've picked up along different
right.
Jewish communities have picked up along the way.
Yeah.
But also just that idea, right, from your story about Mayim Chaim, which is doing such amazing work, and that's along those lines. That's something that I really, I think that resonates for me as well as a leader and as a writer. That often, right, for some, like the kind of writing that I do for a Mitzvah to Eat, where I've written a lot of personal prayers. And for me, when some of them came like from things I've experienced, I wrote a prayer for, someone who's unable to safely fast. But I've also written prayers for, let's say, someone who is unable to safely eat matzah on Passover. Because I just imagine for a lot of people, there must be that sense of loss. Like, right, the way that we make Jewish meaning is that we have ritual that
Right.
symbolizes things, right? So the matzah represents, represents the, right, the bread that didn't have time, the dough that didn't have time to rise on the way out of Egypt, and symbolizes that space where we're remembering both slavery and what it meant to go to freedom. And for so many people, if they're unable to safely eat matzah, it's like, but I'm not tasting Passover. I'm not like, is this, am I experiencing freedom if I can't have matzah?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I really love doing is I sort of sit in that moment, and I am able to have matzah, but I sit in the moment and think, like, if I was in that situation, what would I want someone to say to me?
Yeah.
And so, right, I on our website, in our our Pesach Passover section, there's a poem that I wrote that's called "But I Cannot Eat the Matzah."
It's so, I think that's powerful. And I think that like an important part of leadership is innovation, which feels on one hand, like, right. On one hand, it feels very 2008 to focus on innovation. But on the other hand, like it is so important to what we do. Is finding new ways to do old things, finding new ways to do new things. I came up so I converted 20 years ago and got involved in the ROI community within a couple years of converting. So I've had a pretty like unique experience as far as like, I went to a number of ROI summits, and then, now 2017, I became a Wexner Heritage Fellow. So a few philanthropists in the Jewish community have really invested a lot in my Jewish leadership skills. And it's so interesting to me. I was talking to Sarah Lefton the other day, who in 2007 had a pilot for something at the time called Godcast. She had one YouTube episode of a Parsha, animated Parsha explanation that eventually became something called Bim Bam, and eventually was acquired by the URJ, her archives, and she did weekly Parshot animated. She did holiday explainers, and now she's running a Jewish digital storytellers fellowship, and she's on her third class of fellows. And it's just like, I was like, if we imagine where we were in 2007 in this tiny classroom in Jerusalem, where you had 1 3-minute YouTube video, and now it's like all this content and all these people and this incredible amount of impact. But at the time it was like, it was just, is it Balaam's donkey? Is that right? Balaam?
Yeah, Balaam. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just, that's something I love now, being 20 years into the Jewish community, is the people that just had like this little idea 20 years ago that then become such institutions that they then can't get like funding because they're not new and innovative anymore. And I think that there's a lot to be said about that. And a mitzvah to eat, you're like on the beginning, and you started it 4 years ago. So in God willing, in 15, 16 years, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, I started an institution, and you've impacted all these people around the world in our Jewish community. Like, what an amazing road to be headed on.
Thank you. I think it's really, for me, a lesson in just, right, I guess that, I guess starting something that was really in my heart, that felt like a calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, again, I sort of looking, oh, maybe this person will talk about it, or maybe that person, and realizing, no, the person that's supposed to be doing it is me. I'm waiting for myself, and I've got, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah.
But also really like seeing how it's grown. It's been amazing. Really the idea, like I decided in November of 2021 that like, let's see what happens if we put a little bit of social media content up on Facebook and Instagram with new messaging and like just beginning to talk about the topic of being unable to safely fast, and create a Facebook group. And now we have close to 1,000 people in our Facebook group. Our social media has really grown, and right, like sometimes one year a post about our Yom Kippur guide, with prayers for those unable to safely fast, it reached 85,000 people on Facebook.
Amazing.
It's amazing, and it really is, and just sort of and the response, like beyond just sort of those, I mean, right, the numbers are amazing, right? Our website has, we're still really beginning. We are still, like, we're looking for people who want to invest in a mitzvah to eat. We're still really really in the startup stage still. And the website has been seen by thousands of people in 67 countries.
Amazing.
Just to really like, and I've really lost track of the number of people who have said to me, thank you so much. I'm so glad that exists in the world.
Mm-hmm. Do you have leaders that you look up to, whether you actually know them or not, or anyone that you that inspires you to keep doing this?
I mean, I think there are certainly people that I respect who are leaders, but I think the one that I would actually talk about today is our mutual friend, Yvonne Marzouk. Mm-hmm. Because I think, right, many years ago, she founded Kanfei Nesharim, a Jewish environmental organization. And I think in both, like, because she did that, I was like, well, if a friend of mine can start a nonprofit, maybe I could do that. And also just her more recent work based on her book, The Prophetess, and like some of the really beautiful writing that she has in there, where she talks about the idea of growing into your gifts and how each of us has gifts that we might not even know of yet, or we might not recognize as gifts. We might just think, oh, I'm just like, oh, surely everyone can do that thing. But it's not true. Each of us does have our own gifts. And it's just this really beautiful idea of growing into your gifts. I've been very, like, I think encouraged and supported by my friendship by my friend Yvonne. I just, she's someone that I see that way.
Yeah, it is remarkable, because I think she had a project before the nonprofit, a different environmental Jewish project, because we were roommates at our first ROI, and we didn't meet each other until like the third day, and we were sharing a hotel room. But like either one of us would go to bed earlier than the other, or like we just, like, our paths didn't cross until we had been sharing a hotel room for 3 days. It was very funny. But yeah, I think her work in both environmentalism and the growing into your gifts work with the Prophetess, and working with bat mitzvah students, daughters and mothers, different groups. She's done so much to make that book accessible to different people and to give it a life beyond publishing day. It's really impressive.
Yeah. And again, I think for me, one of the things that I guess it helps me grow into sort of this, like, the idea of myself, into my own strengths and my leadership is just this idea. I think I often thought, like, oh, writing and publishing or being on podcasts or founding nonprofits, like, that's for the people who, that, like, I'm over here and, those people are over there, and I could never do any of those things. And I think just having, like, seeing that she does it for me, like it's like, oh, okay, actually, I could do those things. I have now done those things.
Yes. Yeah. There's a new show on Netflix called Long Story Short. Have you heard about it?
No.
It's it's a 10 episode adult animated show by the founder of BoJack Horseman. It is the most Jewish thing ever made for TV. It tells a story of a Jewish family, three adult children, but like it time travels back to the 90s and up to present day. And one of the episodes is about the mom being honored at the JCC for her leadership in the community. And the kids are like, Mom is the worst. Why are we here? What are they even going to say about her? They just made her the honoree because she knows rich people and they hope they'll make donations. But like, Mom, like, why would they honor her? And then it's speech after speech of like all of people showing all of the amazing things that this mom had done when she was outside of the home volunteering and being a leader that's like invisible to your children. And it was such a powerful, I found it to be a very powerful episode about, you know, you can know somebody in one part of their life and you don't know all of their parts of all of them. There was a lot to say about like, what do kids understand about their mothers and their parents? But also just this, I don't know. I just thought it was a really beautiful episode about impact on a community. And it's a comedy show. I laughed and cried in every episode. It's very, very, it is so Jewish. It is hard to explain how Jewish it is. And I'm recommending it to everybody. This is the first time I've been on the podcast since I've watched it. So it's the first of many times I'll talk about it. But I just think that, you know, getting to see, you know, when we host, when you honor somebody at the synagogue and you even like, you think you know what they do as a leader. And it's a chance to find out, like they do so many other things that you've never seen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And what it, you know, I think what it brought up for me is that sort of, I guess, anytime we do anything in our Jewish communities or beyond, really there's so many people who have, you know, contributed in some way to make that possible.
Yeah.
Right. I sometimes think about, you know, what does it mean to live in a shared world? And right, like even if I just walk, you know, outside my house, right, there's, you know, the workers who, you know, last month repaved the road and right, the people who, right, the people who, I don't know, just pick up the trash and, right, you know, of our synagogue, like who's setting up the chairs.
Yeah.
You know, just, I think, unfortunately, many people do take those kinds of things for granted, but it's really important that when you see something that's done, someone did it. It didn't just happen that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really important to keep in mind. Well, Sarah, we've been chatting for about an hour. Is there anything about leadership that I haven't asked you about, or a mitzvah to eat that has occurred to you that you want to make sure to share before we say goodbye?
I guess I'd love to. Well, I guess first I just want to say really thank you for having me, for inviting me to speak. And I'd really
and now you've done your first podcast.
I have done,
and you survived it.
And I'd really love to. I love speaking about a mitzvah to eat. And so I'd love to write. I'd love to continue speaking, continue writing. So I hope people will reach out if that's of interest.
Yeah. I suspect you are willing to join a Zoom meeting if a synagogue had a Zoom meeting. Would you entertain traveling to speak about a mitzvah to eat?
I mean, I think right now, sort of DC area and maybe like up to, between DC and New York kind of
Yeah.
trips are mostly my speed right now.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm
But Zoom, but you'll Zoom with anyone, right?
for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So friends who are involved in synagogue leadership or different Jewish circles, we will have a link, all the links to A Mitzvah to Eat. The deadline is September 12th for the care package for specifically for Yom Kippur. But September 12th is not the deadline for getting involved in A Mitzvah to Eat.
Right. Just
This
for
is
the care
particular.
packages. All of
Yeah.
the resources are always on the website.
Yeah. Amazing. And where can people find A Mitzvah to Eat on the internet?
The website is just www.amitzvahtoeat.org, and we have the H in mitzvah. And then we're also, we're on Facebook and Instagram, a very small following on LinkedIn because it's just a lot of platforms to juggle right now, but you can find us there, and we occasionally post something.
Yeah.
So those are our main spots.
Amazing. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lovely conversation. So good to get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.